Hello and welcome to 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐿 Bundesliga Matchday 32, and this is really interesting. Still only 1 point between Bayern and Borussia Dortmund, and finally, Radek, we have Schalke out of the bottom three.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the biggest surprises, and I didn't expect them to even leave the last spot, and now they're on spot 15, which is really interesting, and it's gonna be very interesting in the last 3 game days.
For them that they have to play Bayern Munich now, but they are out, as I said, from the relegation spot, so there is hope. Remember, guys, leave your comments as always, and don't forget to press the like and subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. And the first game is on Friday. We have Cologne and Hertha, two teams that gave us a big surprise last weekend, because Cologne was able to end the great Leverkusen's run, beating them 1-2 in the derby. And Hertha also finally won one game. They beat Stuttgart 2-1. So there is hope also for Hertha, Radek.
Yeah, but they're still on spot 18. They are last, and the difference to the non-relegation spots to position 15 to Schalke now is 5 points. So in 3 games, this is really hard to come over, but it's not impossible just mathematically, because Stuttgart on position 16, which was Hertha last year, and they could win the relegation games, is only 3 points away. So yeah, it's crucial for Hertha. This game, they must win every game now to stay in the league. But on the other hand, as you told, Cologne is really awesome at the moment. They only lost 1 game in the last 6, and they beat Leverkusen. So everything okay for Cologne, but Cologne doesn't need any points because they're in the middle of nowhere. They have no chances to get to the international spots, and they are safe to not be relegated. So for Cologne, they don't have any pressure. They don't have to win the game. But at the end, they are playing at home. They seem to be in a great situation at the moment. And that's why I think it's going to be very hard for Hertha here. What I don't like are the odds on Cologne, only 1.9. I would say, in a tipping game, Cologne should win this game closely. But I'm a bit of aware that they don't need the points as much as Hertha. And as we've seen last game, the Hertha is able to collect points after all. And that's why I'm afraid of a draw. And I won't put my personal money on this game, as in the now situation, everything can happen in the Bundesliga more than on any other game days, I think. But yeah, still, I think a 1.9 for a win for Cologne is okay, but I'm really not happy with the odds.
Okay, remember, of course, that Hertha, they are the worst away team in the Bundesliga with only 5 points, only 1 victory when they are playing away. A lot of on stake in the next game on Saturday. We have Bayern Schalke is our first game. Bayern, as we all know, fighting for the title, beating Werder Bremen and Hertha, although not shining a lot, but still they are winning. And the next games are Leipzig and Cologne to be crowned Bundesliga champions again. Whereas for Schalke, as we mentioned at the beginning, the unexpected victory against Mainz, 3-2 away, 3 victories in the last 4 games. Unfortunately for Schalke, they have a tough calendar. They have Frankfurt, which is all right, and then Leipzig.
Yeah, that's really sad, because they seem to fight till the end, but it's going to be very hard against those teams who are fighting for international spots, like Bayern for the championship and Leipzig for the Champions League. And even worse, that Schalke didn't score a goal within the last 6 games against Bayern and only 1 goal within the last 8 games against Bayern. And Schalke is not really famous for scoring goals. Nevertheless, they scored 5 goals in the last 2 games and beat Mainz, which was awesome. And kind of with the luck of the referee and so on, but who cares in Schalke? I think it doesn't matter. Against Bayern, yeah, the odds on Bayern are not worth considering it because 1.15 around is too low. Betting on Schalke for sure is also really no option. But if you're a Schalke fan, maybe you believe in Schalke still, I know. I would be happy if Schalke can make the relegation, but on the other hand, for Bayern Munich in this game at home, fighting for the championship, I think they won't hand over anything to Schalke. And an interesting bet could be Bayern wins 2-0, because as I said, as the last 6 games, Schalke didn't score a goal. So I like the odds of 2.0 in this case, if Bayern wins without conceding a goal. And the other option is that Bayern wins both halves. So the odds for that are 1.9. And as I think Bayern is not interested in staying or having a clean sheet, I think it's more likely that they win the first half and also win the second half and make it 2-0, maybe a 3-1 or something like that, and will beat Schalke. So 1.9 are the odds for that.
Okay, then very important game, this Bayern Schalke. Less important, Frankfurt Mainz, because it's going to be difficult for both of them to get to the European spots. Still some options, but Mainz, they lost the last 2 games, and Frankfurt, they are keeping their really bad run. They lost to Hoffenheim, 10 winless games now, so only waiting for the cup final for Frankfurt.
Yeah, but the chances even for spot 7 are not that bad, and Mainz is on spot 8, 1 point after Wolfsburg, because we have a cup final between Leipzig and Frankfurt, I think.
Frankfurt,
but if Leipzig gonna win the cup, they can go to the position 7 in the league, will go to the Europe League. And on the other hand, Frankfurt can go to the Europe League by winning the cup by themselves. So the chances are that position 7 is also for international is good. And so for both teams, it's reachable, because Frankfurt is position 9. There are 3 points behind Wolfsburg. So, but it's very unlikely, as Frankfurt had a really bad streak now, and they couldn't win a lot of games and left a lot of points behind. And now they lost against Hoffenheim. And on the other hand, we have Mainz, who also had a great streak, but then won even against Bayern Munich 3-1 at home, and lost the last 2 games against Mainz, against Schalke and Wolfsburg. That's why I think in this game, I really don't see a clear winner. So we have the value on the side of the team who has the higher odds, and this is Mainz. And I also think Mainz should not lose this game. And we get really good Asian handicap odds for Asian handicap plus 0.25 on Mainz. It's around 2.0 for that. And yeah, I think Mainz has shown that in the whole season they are a bit better than Frankfurt. And even after the last 2 games losing.
And one of the key games is the next one, Union Berlin Freiburg for the Champions League. Unfortunately, for one of them, probably the loser, won't go to the Champions League after being in the top for the whole season, but they don't arrive at the best moment to this key game. Union Berlin only one victory in the last 5 Bundesliga games. They lost to Augsburg in the last game, and Freiburg, they lost twice against Leipzig in the cup. And in the league, if we check also the schedule, Radek, until the end of the season, is tougher for Freiburg. They have to play Wolfsburg and Frankfurt after this game in Berlin.
Yeah, but I think they should not be too much afraid of Wolfsburg at the moment after they lost 6-0 against Dortmund and Frankfurt, who has not won a game for months now. But also in this game, the problem is that Union Berlin only won one game in the last 5 or 6 or so, and only scored one goal in the last 3 games. And that's why I prefer Freiburg here. Additional to the better odds here, I see Freiburg on, kind of value, because they had better results, and even losing 0-1 to Leipzig at home is not really bad. And the cup game, okay, they can ignore it, and I was expecting that after the cup game that they play a better Bundesliga game against Leipzig, and made it very close, the game against Leipzig. And I think this will also be a close game, as both are fighting for the Champions League, as you said. I expect a 1-1 or a close win for Freiburg even, but we don't have to bet on a 3-way here. We can go with the Asian handicap on Freiburg, which I like very much because I prefer them here in this game, and the Freiburg Asian handicap is plus 0.25, and we get odds of 2.05 for that.
Okay, very interesting game, this one. What a great season both teams are doing, despite one of them probably missing the Champions League spots at the end of the season. Next game, Bochum, Augsburg, of course, for the relegation, with Bochum now penultimate in the standings, same points as Stuttgart. Next game is Hertha, so they have 2 key games in a row for Bochum, and this one is important, of course, because also Augsburg, they are kind of safe now. Radek, 6 points away from relegation after that victory against Union Berlin.
Yeah, and Augsburg had 3 games in a row not losing, and beating Union Berlin, collecting a point against Frankfurt, and even before, they had a really good game at Leipzig, only losing 3-2, scoring twice against Leipzig. So all of these last 4 games of Augsburg were really good. And on the other hand, I know that Bochum made a point against Dortmund, but in other games, like against Gladbach, they were not able to compete, and they even lost 5-1 against Wolfsburg. So the momentum, I think, is on side of Augsburg, and the odds are also great on Augsburg, and that's why it's better to bet on Augsburg draw no bet, or Augsburg Asian handicap plus 2.5, which is my favorite bet at the game days, 3 times in a row. Asian handicap plus 0.25 on the away team. That's why we get odds of 2.0 on Augsburg here, not losing at Bochum. And if there's a draw, we get half of the odds, and that's still good enough, as Augsburg showed that they are really better than in the first half of the season now.
Indeed. Well, next game then, Wolfsburg, Hoffenheim. Wolfsburg thrashed by Dortmund, wiped out 6-0, but as you mentioned before, they are in the 7th spot, only 2 points away from Leverkusen, so with hopes to play European football next season. Hoffenheim almost safe. They beat Frankfurt 3-1 in the previous game. 4 points above relegation is almost done for Hoffenheim.
Yeah, and the problem here, if we have a look at the odds, we see Wolfsburg as a huge favorite with odds of 2.0. And after losing with 6 goals against Dortmund, who can bet on Wolfsburg as a winner? And I won't do that because it's just no point here. And Hoffenheim proved that they can make points, not only against Frankfurt. So at least 1 point for Hoffenheim should be possible. And that's why I would say it's better to bet on double chance Hoffenheim, as we have 2 out of 3 outcomes covered with this bet. And if Wolfsburg wins, we won't get really attractive odds. And on the other hand, double chance on Hoffenheim has odds of 1.9 to 2.0. And at the recent situation, I would say that's the better thing.
Well, we have to remember that Wolfsburg, they've been so poor this season when they are playing at home. Only 5 victories. They are 10th in the home standings. Usually they perform better away. It was not the case when they play against Dortmund, because it's very difficult to play in Dortmund. Next game is the Borussia's clash. Dortmund is the best team this season when they are playing at home. They've only conceded 13 goals, 1 defeat and 1 draw in the whole season playing at home. And Gladbach, Radek, they are very poor also when they are traveling. Actually, it's the 4th worst away team in the competition with only 1 victory. And all the stats, I think, are reflected on the odds. Dortmund to win is only 1.3.
Yeah, and that's everything you said. We should expect Dortmund to win this game, because good home team versus bad away team. And after the last game of Dortmund, they should be on a good mental situation, and they should believe in themselves. And the problem is that in games against Gladbach, it was sometimes very tough for Dortmund. Remember the first game in the season at Gladbach, Dortmund lost 4-2, and maybe it's time for a revenge for them. And at home, they even should remember that they won the game against Gladbach last year 6-0. Always interesting games with both of these teams. That's why we should maybe look at the total goals, as 6 goals in the last 2 games were easily a good bet for over goals. But also the bookmakers know that and put this into their calculation, and that's why we don't find any value in this market. And also no value on Dortmund, because 1.3 is just too low every time. We should not bet on such low odds. But I can imagine that maybe Dortmund, after the last games, can be behind at some point and has to fight till the end and win the game in the last minutes. That's my game plan here. Maybe 3-1 for Dortmund. But if Gladbach leads 1-0, we can maybe bet on Dortmund wins from behind, because the odds are 6.5 for that. And as I don't see any value in other bets, I would say that's worth a shot with small money on it.
Okay, kind of a difficult game to get some profit, especially if you trust Dortmund, as we all trust. Dortmund, as we all know, is still fighting for the title. After this game, they have Augsburg and Mainz, but they screw it up against Bochum, so who trust Dortmund, especially when they are playing away. And for Sunday, we have 2 more games. We have Leverkusen, because they are involved in the Europa League semifinals against Roma. Their great run in the Bundesliga and also in the Europa League came to an end against Cologne, but still they are fighting to get in the 6th spot. And this is a key game also for Stuttgart, Radek, right now in the play-out spots to go to Bundesliga 2, and they had a really bad week. They lost to Hertha, and they lost also in the semifinals of the Cup.
And that's why I really don't understand the odds, because I think Leverkusen, even if they lost now, they are still on their way to the international spots, and maybe also to the Champions League, maybe if they can compete with Roma. I don't really know how good Roma is in comparison to a German team, but I think it's not impossible for Leverkusen to achieve the finals in the Europe League. And we all know that Frankfurt is the title contender and went to the Champions League. So for Leverkusen, this can be a huge motivation. And the problem might be that, this game against Stuttgart is only 3 days after playing at Rome. And that could be a problem. But if we watch at the results of Leverkusen in the Bundesliga after they had a game in the Champions League or in the Europe League this year, it was kind of positive. Even if they had tough games in the international games, they were able to win the game in the Bundesliga, even against Bayern Munich. You have to remember that Leverkusen was able to beat Bayern Munich as one of 4 or 5 teams in this season. And that's why I think it's brilliant that we get huge odds on Leverkusen here with 2.7 for a Leverkusen win. And I would say that is good enough to bet on it. And I really like Leverkusen win here. So odds of 2.7 in a game like that, I would say this is really value.
Remember that they were undefeated in the previous 9 games before that defeat against Cologne. So Leverkusen is still in great form under Xabi Alonso. And the last game we have to analyze is Leipzig Werder Bremen. And this is a must win for Leipzig playing at home. They finally made it to the position 3 in the standings, 6 wins in the last 7 games in all competitions, and taking in consideration that they have to face Bayern Munich next, and Werder Bremen have absolutely nothing to play for, Radek, this should be an easy victory for Leipzig.
Yeah, and the odds say so, 1.3 for Leipzig, and that's not really attractive and worth to bet on, as Werder Bremen was the only team winning away at Dortmund in this season. Maybe that's always
a
danger. Yeah. But Leipzig is good at home, we know. Only 2 losses at home, okay. And they should win this game, I think. But the best bet I found was that Bremen, which has 2 of the best scorers in the league, with Füllkrug, who's injured, but Marvin Duksch also has 12 goals. And that's why I think, why shouldn't Bremen score in this game? And at the end, a bet on both teams to score is 1.8 to 1.9, which is really high for Bundesliga, where almost any team can score in any game.
Okay, both teams to score. Füllkrug, he's going to end up being the top scorer of the Bundesliga, 16 goals. Behind him, we have Vincenzo Grifo, Marcus Thuram, Kolo Muani, and Nkunku. So probably Niklas Füllkrug will end up being the top scorer of the competition without Lewandowski. This award is much more open in the Bundesliga. Well, Radek, only 3 games to go. This is coming to an end. A very exciting season in the Bundesliga. And I think this match day we found some good bets. You found a lot of value. Let's see, which one is your favorite one?
Yeah, I think Leverkusen is not going to lose at Stuttgart, as they are the far better team, and they also have, to reach the international spots. And I like the Asian handicap 0 on Leverkusen because the odds are really high with 1.9.
Okay, and Yoraka?
I would combine 3 Asian handicap 0 bets, or as you can call it, draw no bet. If there's a draw in these games, it's just ignored and out of the 𝐿𝐭𝐴, and it's not breaking the 𝐿𝐭𝐴. And I would combine the Leverkusen Asian Handicap 0, odds of 1.9, with Freiburg Asian Handicap 0, 2.6, because I think in Berlin they should not really be the worst team. And Mainz Asian Handicap 0, 2.4, the odds, because Frankfurt is on such a bad streak, and Mainz is not the worst team here also. And altogether with 3 games, we have odds of 11.8.
Great. Well, let's hope for the best, Radek. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Don't forget, press the like, subscribe, and watch us next week as well. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.